First of all, I give honor and praise to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the great, mighty, revered God, the Most High God, who bestows love and kindness, possesses all things, who remembers the pious deeds of the patriarchs, the Most High, slow of anger, great in kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgressions, but who by no means clear the guilty, visiting iniquities of fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation. The Most High's work is perfect, for all his ways of justice, a God of faithfulness, and without iniquity, just and right is he. Giving due respect and honor to a head in Israel, Chief Eleazar, to the chief men, princes, brothers and sisters, I say unto you, the tongue of my forefathers, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
At this point in time, we're going to rise and face the east. I'm saying short prayer. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. El Shaddai Nahenu Walea Botenu Abiyahu Mabigis Kababiyako Atakwados with Shemeka Kwados Baruch Shemeka Lolam Mahe with Shamaru Bene Israel El Shabbat Asot El Shabbat the little time of the Olam Bene Bene Israel Otilolam Kisha Shet Yamim Masa El Shaddai Wa Shamayim Wa Ta'aris Ubayom Masbi Shabbat Wa Nafash Baruch Shemeka Baruch Yamineka Baruch Torateka Baruch Kudushateka El Shaddai Melech, El Shaddai Malak, El Shaddai Imlok, Lolam Mahe, Baruch Shem Kabor Makuto, Lolam Mahe, Baruch Kabor Lohim Min Komon Melech Elyon, Hallelujah, Lolam Mahe. Yom Kippur Shalom.
Yom Kippur Shalom.
Yom Kippur, meaning the Day of Atonement. And what are we atoning for? What are we atoning for? We're making atonement for our iniquities. Because our sins, our iniquities has driven us far away from God and has pushed us away from God, has built a breach, a separation between us, between the children of Israel and God. And because of that breach, because of that separation, God done went back to his place. God done went back to his place until the children of Israel acknowledged their offense. Until we begin to acknowledge that we are at fault. Until we begin to acknowledge that we are at fault with God. And when you begin to acknowledge that, you are at fault with God, then that brings about changes. Then and only then will a man or a woman begin to change. You will not change. You will not take heed. You will not do better if we don't acknowledge that you was wrong. That's right. We cannot be stubborn, stiff-necked, and hard-headed with God. We cannot be stubborn, stiff-necked, and hard-headed with God. The standards is already set. God already set the standards. And where do we find these standards? We find it in the book, in the law, Genesis to Deuteronomy. Then when you read through the history, through Proverbs, through Psalms, you will begin to learn the ways of God. You will begin to learn the standards that is upheld by the Creator. How these men gained the attention of God. We read about this all through the book. Now, there is no man that sinneth not. There is no man that sinneth not. But the key to life is not to sin presumptuously. That's the key to life. Not to sin presumptuously. Now, presumptuous iniquity is when you do things and you know it's wrong. But in order to fight these sins and fight the spirit of sin, because iniquity is sin, and in order to fight this, we have to gird and strengthen ourselves in God. We have to grab hold of the strength of God. In grabbing hold of the strength of God, then we will begin to build that a hedge, a boundary around your soul, around your spirit, because the adversary don't attack the condemned ones. People that are condemned of God, people that are condemned and are set in their ways to lean towards the ways of iniquity, the adversary don't tempt those guys, those type of people. Once you have made your mind up to serve God and keep his commandments, now that's when the battle begins. And the battle is within the spirit. You can't see these spirits. You can't see it when it's coming. But the only way I will be able to see it and acknowledge it, I got to be on point with God. I got to stick close to the Creator. I got to stick close to his laws so that God can open our eyes towards certain things. Towards certain things. Now, our sins, people say, Yom Kippur, we starting a new clean slate. We're not starting no clean slate. The same iniquities that I done committed before the Creator, before God, it'll be on me tonight. The only way that I can get these iniquities off is only by two ways. I read in Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, he said, the honoring of your father make atonement for sins. Okay? Another way you can get rid of iniquity, I have to stop doing it. I have to draw the line and not pass that line. You have to set boundaries for yourselves. I got to set boundaries for myself. Draw that line and don't cross it. Stick to what you started. Stick to it. Because we have ups and downs. Yeah, we have ups and downs. We go up and down with God. Up and down like a seesaw. Like a seesaw, and that ain't right. We got to learn to move up and stay up. That's being perfect. That's why the Lord said, he said, thou shalt be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Then when you read further down, he said, be perfect with God. So you could be perfect. All I got to do is be perfect in the laws that I'm doing. Don't go back. Don't go back. Don't shift back and forth. Don't fluctuate, because now you done put yourself in the sift. You don't put yourself in the sift. I didn't put you there. You put yourself there. Now, we don't have a high priest, because the priest, before the children of Israel, before Yom Kippur, the priests start fasting before Yom Kippur. And he makes the priest atone for the nation of Israel. He reiterates and confesses the sins of the nation of Israel upon the head of that scapegoat. And after he's done confessing the sins of the nation of Israel upon the head of the scapegoat is gone in the hands of a fit man into the wilderness. When the guy come back from leading that scapegoat into the wilderness, he got to go wash. Because what made him unclean? The sins and the iniquities that was upon the head of that scapegoat. So let's check something out. I got something here I want to reiterate on. Right? It says the remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity. You hear this? He said the remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity. When I looked up the word for iniquity, it says awela. Awela means injustice or wrong. in order for you to acknowledge that this is unjust or this is not wrong, you have to acknowledge your faults. We got to begin to start to acknowledge our faults with God. Now, right? It said, nor speak lies. Neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. So these are three things that we need to start putting into action. No, I ain't in no chapter. I'm just talking. These are three things that we need to start putting into action to be accepted of God. We're going to go to Numbers chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22. It said, and the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho. And Balak the son of Zippor saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was so afraid of the people because they were many. And Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. Now, when the children of Israel left Egypt, the dread, God has put the dread and the fear of the children of Israel on every nation. At this point in time, we were right with God. We were right with God. And if we would have remained right with God, we would have been in that land up until this day. But we refused everything that God commanded us and told us to do or not to do. We did the opposite. Right? It said, Moab said unto the elders of Midian, now shall this company lick up all that are round about us, as an ox licketh up the grass of the field. And Balak the son of Zippor was king of the Moabites at that time. He sent messengers therefore unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, behold, there is a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. Come now, therefore, I pray.
Curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I wot that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou cursest is cursed.
This guy is a diviner. He's talking to the diviner to curse the children of Israel, because they already acknowledge and see that God is with these people. So now they want to bring this diviner to curse the nation. Right? And the
elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand. And they came unto Balaam and spake unto him the words of Balak. And he said unto them, lodge here this night, and I will bring you word again, as the Lord shall speak unto me. And the princes of Moab abode with Balaam. And God came unto Balaam and said, what men are these with thee? And Balaam said unto God, Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, hath sent unto me, saying, behold, there is a people come out of Egypt, which covereth the face of the whole earth.
Look, he said there is a people that came out of Egypt that covereth millions and millions of the children of Israel, and they left with a mixed multitude. Left finding with a mixed multitude. They were great in number, man. So he said, come now, curse me them, peradventure I shall be able to overcome them and drive them out. And God said unto Balaam, thou shalt not go with them. Thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed. Balak is trying to get Balaam to curse the nation of Israel, but God came to Balaam. See, during these times, sin wasn't as great. Sin wasn't as great as today, to where God will appear, to where the Most High will appear to even the nations or to other nations. God would appear to them in visions and speak to them that don't even serve him and believe him. But iniquity wasn't as great as today during these times. All right, read. Verse 13. And
Balaam rose up in the morning and said unto the princes of Balak, get you into your land, for the Lord refused to give me leave to go with you.
You see what Balaam told him? He said, listen here, man. He said, God already commanded me and told me not to go with you. Not to go with you. Certain people and certain men of other nations was even accepted of God. And God used certain men. God used certain men of other nations. Of other nations. Zechariah said this saying, and I love this saying, and I use it all the time. It said, the Most High makes exceptions for those that makes exceptions for his laws. You ever wonder why none of these nations, God already knew they wasn't going to destroy these 7 nations. Look at the man that came out of Hittites, which was Uriah. Look at Ruth, the Moabitess, whom God said that Moab and Ammon will never be able to be accepted in the congregation of God. Ruth, there was a lot of people that God accepted that was of other nations. That's why when you read further down in the book, it says, he said, I am the God, not of all flesh. Of all flesh. Time sheet.
And the princes of Moab rose up, and they went unto the Balak and said, Balaam refused to come with us. And Balak sent again princes, more and more honorable than they. And they came to Balaam and said unto him, thus saith Balak, the son of Zippor, let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me.
But he said, they came to Balak. He sent princes, more and more princes, more honorable than the ones that came. He said, listen, he said, listen, what's stopping you from coming? They don't know God came to this guy and told him, listen here, man, this guy is not, what you do? Balak, he said, don't go with him. Which means what? This guy is not accepted of God. He ain't accepted. I'm not rocking with him. Which means we got to watch who we walk with. We got to watch who we walk with. Who's our road dog? Who we walking with? Because this dude here that you're walking with may not be accepted of God, and you walking with him, which means you ain't going to be accepted. What do you think would have took place if Balaam would have came with Balak? Both of them, Balaam wouldn't have been a tool. He was a tool to be used of God. God used him. Tom, see?
Let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me. For I will promote thee unto very great honor.
I will promote thee to honor.
And I will do whatsoever thou sayest unto me. Come therefore, I pray thee, curse me these people. And Balaam answered and said unto the servants of Balak, if Balak will give me his house full of silver and gold. He said,
Balak, if this guy gives me a house full of silver and gold,
I cannot go beyond the word of the Lord my God.
I can't go beyond. I can't go against the word of God.
To do less or more.
To do less or more. So now, what that tell you, man? You cannot put nothing above the word of God. Nothing. Everybody must fall. We all got a place. The problem is that we like to step out of our place.
True.
We like to step out of place. For a man not to remain in his place, you have to recognize that you have a place. You have to recognize that you have a place that you have to remain in. And if you don't recognize that you have a place that you have to remain in, then you're going to continue to jump out of place. Everybody got a place. But the problem is we don't know our place.
Now therefore, I pray you, tarry ye also here this night, that I may know what the Lord will say unto thee, unto me more.
He said, listen, he said, all right, hold on right here. He said, stay here tonight. He said, God gonna, until I know what God gonna tell me more. All right, read.
And God came unto Balaam at night, and said unto him, if the men come to call thee, rise up and go with them. But yet the word which I shall say unto thee, that shalt thou do.
He said, okay, it's all right. He said, they want you to come with them, right? He said, if the men come to you to snatch you up, he said, go on with them. But this is what you're going to say. The words that I want you to say, I'm going to put it in your mouth. Read.
And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab.
Read.
And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way.
And God's anger was kindled at him because he went. Right? Read.
And the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary.
Now wait, let's back up now. Let's back up. Now, it said God came unto Balaam at night and said unto him, if the men come to call thee, rise up, go with them. But yet the word which I shall say unto thee, that shalt thou do. And Balaam rose up in the morning, saddled his ass, and went with the princes of Moab. Why did God get angry at him after he done told him to go? Why? We ever perceive that or acknowledge in this? Right? Now look, it said God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him. Now the word for adversary, it means it's Satan, right? And we was going through this last night, right? Satan means an adversary. It means to resist, right? And it also means to withstand, right? Now, when you look up the definition of withstand, it means to remain unaffected. Unaffected. So that the angel prevented Balaam from passing. Right? Let's get to it. Right? And the angels, now he was riding upon his ass, and his two servants were with him. And the ass saw the angel of God standing in the way. Balaam ain't seen it. His eyes was closed. But the ass saw it. And he ain't passing that angel. The angel was before him with his sword drawn. Right? And went into the field. And Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way. But the angel of the Lord stood in the path of the vineyards, a wall being on this side and the wall on the other side. It was two walls that he can't turn right or left. He had to move straight. So he kept bouncing side by side and he wasn't advancing because the angel perceived and saw the angel of God. The ass perceived and saw the angel of God, right? It said, when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she thrust herself into the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he smote her again. And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right hand or to the left. Even though Balaam was not supposed to go, God still prevented him from passing through because the angel was there. Now again, right? To remain unaffected, right? The angel what stood before, if he would have passed him and if he wouldn't have been resisted or stopped, and he would have been affected and he would not be able to be used to bless the nations. Balaam was used to bless a whole nation. Now, Balaam is from the land of Midian. He was a Midianite. Now, and who were the Midianites? The sons of Abraham. The sons of Abraham. Right? Now, well, and when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with a staff. Tamshi.
And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she said unto Balaam, what have I done unto thee?
The
That
ass
thou hast
opened.
smitten me these 3 times.
He said, man, you done hit me 3 times. He said, what did I ever do to you?
And Balaam said unto the ass, because thou hast mocked
He said,
me.
because you mocked me. There are different ways to mock. There are different ways to mock. When you go against the command, you're mocking. When you go against the command of a head or a leader or your parents, you are mocking them. Right? Read.
I would there were a sword in mine hand, for now would I kill thee. And the ass said unto Balaam, am not I thine ass upon which thou hast ridden ever since I was?
He said, man, I was your ass from the beginning.
Ever since I was dying.
He said, ever since I was with you, I've been your ass. He said, since I was dying in this day. He said, was I ever want to do so unto thee? Did I ever do this to you?
No.
Consider and realize why this is going on. But God already had the man's eyes shut, so he couldn't see. He didn't see that angel in front of
It
him.
wasn't in the spirit.
That's right. He said, the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face. Now God opened his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he saw the angel ahead of him. When he saw that angel, he dropped and prostrated himself. And the angel of the
Lord said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass these 3 times?
He said, man, why you hit that ass, man, these 3 times? Man, what's your problem, Balaam? He said, why you hit that ass 3 times?
Behold, I went out to withstand thee.
He said, I went out to withstand thee, to resist you. God sent the angel to resist him, because if he didn't resist him, he wouldn't be able to be used to bless the nation. God already had a plan for Balaam. He was going to use him to bless a whole nation. But if he wouldn't have resisted him, he wouldn't have been able to have been used. Certain things we do in life cause us not to be accepted of God. Certain things we do in life put a block in our spirit to where God don't want us and we can't be used.
Right.
So most of the time, sometimes during certain situations in life, it's a hard stop. It's a hard stop. God got to stop you hard. Because if he allow you to keep going further, then you won't be able to succeed and prevail with God. We got to realize this.
Right.
Tamshi.
Behold, I went out to withstand thee.
I went out to withstand thee.
Because thy way is perverse before me.
Wait. Because your ways are perverse. When I look up the word perverse, it says yarat. Yarat means contrary. Your ways is contrary. Your ways is opposite. There's 2 ways to be contrary with God. We can be opposite and contrary with God in our nature, and we can be opposite and contrary with God in our direction. Figure out and learn, how can you be contrary with God in your nature? You already have an idea of your direction. Your direction is you're supposed to be directed towards these laws, commandments, and statutes. And when you're directed towards the laws, commandments, and statutes, it brings about a different mentality.
That's right.
It brings about a different thinking. It gives you a different thinking pattern. Right? It also means perversely inclined to disagree. Always ready to disagree. Never acknowledging your fault. Never acknowledging when you're wrong. Never able to accept that I was wrong. So you always have that contrary spirit upon you.
That's right.
Or to do the opposite of what is expected or desired. What is expected and desired of you? But only What is expected and desired of you of God? To do his laws, commandments, and statutes. Throughout the book we hear, he said, God told us, he said, man, change your ways.
You better listen.
He said, change your ways so your ways stink before me, man. And our ways is what draw God and push God away from us. That's what pushed God so far away from us. Go ahead, read.
And the ass saw me and turned from me these 3 times. Unless she had turned from me, surely now also I had slain thee and saved her alive.
See, listen, if the ass didn't turn away and the ass would have kept pushing forward, the ass would have lived.
That's right.
I would have killed you. But the ass was the one that held back. If it wasn't for that ass, Balaam would have been dead.
That's right.
Read.
And Balaam said unto the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stoodest in the way against me.
Look, man, and that was the problem. Look, that never was a problem in the book. The righteous and pious men in the book always recognized when they was wrong.
Okay.
The first thing the man said was, I have sinned. I didn't know you was ahead of me. I didn't know you were standing there to withstand me from pushing through, to resist me. We have a problem saying I was wrong.
Wrong. Okay.
And if we don't acknowledge that we are wrong, if we don't acknowledge that we're wrong with God, we cannot change. What makes you think you're going to acknowledge that you're wrong with God, that we can't acknowledge that we're wrong with each other? We can't even acknowledge with one another that I was wrong. Say, yo, man, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't. And that takes humility.
That's right.
In order to acknowledge that you're wrong with each other, we have to be humble. We got to humble ourselves. We got to have some type of humility with ourselves. And if we don't have humility with ourselves to acknowledge that we was wrong, then we're not going to have no humility with God.
None.
Something, entity and a spirit that cannot be seen. But we see each other every day. And we cannot humble ourselves with each other. Me being tough with you don't make me tough. You being tough with me don't make me tough.
Talk about it.
We blood, we family, man.
That's right. That's right.
Why? But in order for this thing here to work, we both gotta have the same mindset. We both gotta be thinking the same way. And because we don't think the same way, we're gonna clash.
Right.
We're gonna clash.
Fact.
I'm gonna look at you and pull my sword.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at me and pull your sword.
Talk
And what the book said? He said, blood touching blood.
Talk about it.
God said that. And that was a nasty scene before the Creator. That's why we read about it. Blood touching blood. Come on, man.
Talk about it.
Tom Sheet.
If it displease thee, I will get me back again.
Wait, what verse you at?
I'm gonna go back.
Uh-huh.
And Balaam said unto the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I knew not
I
that
have
thou
sinned.
For I knew not that thou stoodest in the
I
way
didn't
against
know
me.
you stood in the way.
Now therefore, if it displease thee, I will get me back again.
He said, if it displease you, if you want me to, he said, I'll go back. I'll go back. See, Balaam was supposed to wait on the word of God. God said, wait, I'm going to tell you a word. I want you to go. He said, but I'm going to put some words in your mouth, and that only shall thou speak. Balaam jumped the gun, got up, went with Moab, and God got angry with him.
Right.
That quick.
Right. That quick.
And when he left and went with him, he sent the angel in the way to stop him, to resist him. Now, he wasn't going to see the angel. He wasn't going to see that angel because God had opened his eyes. But that ass saw the angel. And that's the reason why he didn't push forward. But even in his wrongness, God showed mercy to him by sending the angel there. We got to realize the way God works. Sometimes we say things out of our mouths, and we become too stubborn, and we
Mhm.
become stubborn and go back on our word. Now God put you in a position to where you can't do this
Okay.
anymore. Now you
Okay.
can't do this.
Okay.
Because I done said this out of our mouth, and this guy, I done did certain things in my life that caused God's eyes to be upon me forever.
Right.
Some of the things, there are things that we can do in our life that will cause God's attention to be on you forever. And one of them is sacrificing yourself for his laws.
That's right.
Sacrificing yourself for God's laws. Tamshi.
And the angel of the Lord said unto Balaam, Go with the men, but only the word that I shall speak unto thee, that thou shalt speak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. And when Balak heard that Balaam was come, he went out to meet him unto the city of Moab, which is in the border of Arnon, which is in the utmost coast.
Mm-hmm.
And Balak said unto Balaam, Did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee?
He said, man, Balak went to her. He said, man, didn't I call you, man? Basically, he said, man, I called you. What's up? Why you ain't pop out? Why didn't you come?
Wherefore camest thou not unto me?
He said, why you ain't come to me? Read.
Am I not able indeed to promote thee to honor?
He said, I am able to promote you to honor.
That's right.
But this is far more above what you're talking about here, Balak. This is past you.
Mhm.
This is past you. This is above you. Read.
And Balaam said unto Balak, Lo, I am come unto thee. Have I now any power at all to say anything? The word that God putteth in my mouth shall I
He
speak.
said, listen, man, I can't say what I please. And I can't say what you want me to say.
That's right.
The only thing I will be able to voice and say out of my mouth is what God put in my mouth.
That's right.
I'm already instructed.
Mm-hmm.
And Balaam went with Balak, and they came unto Kirjath Huzot. And Balak offered oxen, sheep, and sent to Balaam and to the princes that were with him. And it came to pass on the morrow that Balak took Balaam and brought him up into the high places of Baal. Thence he might see the utmost part of the people. So he brought him up on high. Brought him up on high to see a whole nation of people. Right? Now, they did that because most of the time when you're coming to bless or curse, they pick you up on high. Now, this guy was a heavy diviner. This guy was able to bless and curse a whole nation at one time. Not one by one, a whole nation at one time. Go ahead, next chapter.
And Balaam said unto Balak, Build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams.
7 altars, 7 oxen, 7 rams. He's setting up some altars because he about to use this thing here to curse the whole nation. Now, anything can be an altar. It depends on what you're dedicating the spot for.
Mm-hmm.
I had people that had little nightstands.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you come into the house is already a shrine
Mm-hmm.
because of what the people or what the person had in there.
Yeah.
It's a shrine already.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a house of gods.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when God told Micah, he said, man, you got a house of gods. Which means what made it a house of gods is because it's idols in here.
Mm-hmm.
There's images in here. So now this table here was a shrine because they had a picture of a dead man with candles and food and water.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's on that table must go.
Mm-hmm.
Everything got to go.
Including
And the table.
The picture, the table, the stand, everything that is associated with that picture has to go. Tom sheet.
And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram. And Balaam said unto Balak, Stand by thy burnt offering, and I will go. Peradventure, the Lord will come to meet me. And whatsoever he showeth me, I will tell thee. And he went to an high place. And God met Balaam, and he said unto him, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bullock and a ram. And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth, and said, Return unto Balak, and thus thou shalt speak.
Return to Balak, this is what I want you to say.
And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt sacrifice, he and all the princes of Moab. Read. And he took up his parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, hath brought me from Aram,
out of the mountains of the east, saying, Come curse me, Jacob, and come defy Israel. How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? You hear that? There's no way you could curse a nation or people or a person and God didn't curse him. So in order for this curse to go through or to have any effect, I must be not in good standings with God.
That's a fact.
For this to happen. And this is what we need to realize. When things happen or go down in one's lifetime, you have to realize and backtrack and say, I must not be in good standards with God. Why this happened or why this took place. Tom, see?
How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? Or how shall I defy whom the Lord hath not defied?
For from the top of the rocks I see him.
And from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone.
The people shall dwell alone.
They shall not be reckoned among the nations.
They shall not be recognized amongst the nations. They shall not be recognized amongst the nations. Israel will never be recognized amongst the nations. We wasn't recognized. People don't even know what is an Israelite. They don't even know what Israel is. You got to say Jew. You got to say Jew. We're not in the United Nations sitting around the round table. We don't have a spot. That means what? We're not a nation no more. Why do we keep continuing to say things that don't stand? God don't look at us as a nation no more. God is not dealing with us as a nation no more. He is dealing with us as individuals. Individual. If you step up and push towards God, then God will deal with you. But he ain't dealing with us as a whole nation. We're not even recognized as a nation. Now what? Reckon. Kashab. The word is kashab. He said it means to think, to consider, to imagine. To imagine, right? To think means to have a particular opinion, belief, or ideas. Your belief, your ideas, and your opinions will be completely opposite than the nations or the people that we dwell amongst. Because this also goes into going after the ways and the customs of the heathens. You think the same. You move the same. You believe the same thing they believe. Your ideas is the same. Everything about you is the same like these people. But then, yet, we call ourselves the nation of Israel. And we're supposed to be a people that serve God, but you think just like them. Your belief is the same like them. Tom,
who can count the dust of Jacob?
That's verse what? 10? Go ahead, read.
And the number of the fourth part of
Who
Israel.
can not count the dust of Jacob? We was numerous. We couldn't even be counted. We couldn't even be counted. Read.
Let me die the death of the righteous.
Let me die the death of the righteous.
And let my last end be like his. And Balak said unto Balaam, what hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them altogether.
I done told you already, I can only speak or say the word that God put in my mouth.
That's right.
That's the only thing I can do right now. Whatever you want me to say, I can't say it. God already, Most High has already guided my tongue. Tom, see?
And he answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord had put in my mouth?
Uh-huh.
And Balak said unto him, Come, I pray thee, with me unto another
You
place.
think that's going to change the situation? Let me take you over here. Let's see if this changed. Uh-huh. Read.
From whence thou mayest see them, thou shalt see but the utmost part of them, and shalt not see them all, and curse me them from thence.
Uh-huh.
And he brought him into the field of Zophim,
Zophim,
to the top of Pisgah,
and
built 7 altars,
7 altars,
and offered a bullock,
and a ram,
on every altar.
Uh-huh.
And he said unto Balak,
Uh-huh.
Stand here by thy burnt offering while I meet the Lord yonder.
Uh-huh.
And the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, Go again unto Balak and say thus. And when he came to him, behold, he stood by his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him.
And the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, Go again unto Balak and say thus. Now God is directing his mouth, directing the words that come out of this guy's mouth. Right? Go ahead, read.
And when he came to him, behold, he stood by his burnt offering.
Stood by his burnt offerings.
And the princes of Moab.
The princes of Moab with him.
And Balak said unto him, What hath the Lord spoken?
Balak said, he said, What did God tell you? He said, What did God speak to you? What did he say? Read.
And he took up his parable
and
said, Rise up, Balak, and hear. Hearken unto me, thou son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of
God is not a man that he should lie. God is not like man that he should lie. Right. And if we have made our mind up to serve God, then we should not lie. Because God gave us a law. We have laws that give us a strict law, strict commandments. He said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and might. Right? Then he gave us, he said, Thou shalt be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Right. Then God told, he said, we got to be perfect. Mm-hmm. So in order to be like unto God, we have to be against the things that God is against. Mm-hmm. And accept the things that God accepts. That's right. To be godlike, to be like unto God. Mm-hmm. Tamshi.
Neither the Son of Man that he should repent.
He said, God is not a man that he should lie, neither the Son of Man that he should repent. Mm-hmm. When you look up the word for repent, it's nacham, means to repent, it means to regret, it means to be sorry, and it also means change his mind. It also means to change your mind. So when we say things, we got to stand to what we say. Mm-hmm. We can't change our mind. Well, I changed my mind. No, God didn't change his mind. So why do we continue to change our mind? Why do we continue to change our mind? Right? Go ahead, read. Repent. And had he said he shall not do it, or had he spoken?
Hath he said, shall he not do it? Or
hath he whatever God say, he gonna do it. That's right. He ain't gonna go against what he said. What he said. Mm-hmm.
And shall he not make it good? Mm-hmm. Behold, I have received commandments to bless.
I have received commandments to bless.
And he hath blessed.
And he hath blessed.
And I cannot reverse it.
I cannot turn back. God already gave me strict laws and strict commands. You gotta bless. These people's gotta be blessed. He said, I can't turn back. As bad as I want to turn back, I can't turn back because God is in control. Read.
He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob.
Wait a minute. He had not beheld iniquity in Jacob. Mm-hmm. Oh, right? That's heavy, man.
Yes.
That's heavy. Mm-hmm. So if we are truly the seed of Jacob, see, God gave us a book. And now he's showing us the characteristics of a seed that was chosen of God. He said he has not beheld what? Iniquity in Jacob. So now, what is iniquity? Iniquity, when you look it up in the Hebrew, it says awen. Awen means injustice, which means every situation that we are into, we must be just.
That's right.
Every situation that we are into, we must be just.
Right.
Okay? That is a part, to be just is a part of conscientious, just, upright. And to be just and upright, you got to have a conscience, able to make amends with God.
That's right.
And if I can't make amends with one another, then I can't make amends with God. We got to be able to acknowledge our fault with each other in order to acknowledge our fault with God. Because we are a sinful nation.
That's
and
right.
we refuse to change.
Right.
We refuse to change. We refuse to change. So how in the world do we expect to be accepted of God and we won't change? We won't take heed. Like God told Cain, he said, if you do as well, shall thou not be accepted? He said, I will accept you. I will exalt you. He said, but if you do as not well, if you don't do well, then what? Sin lieth at the door. And unto you shall it be your desire. It's going to desire you. It's going to desire you. Take heed means to improve or to do good. The book shows us what is good. The book shows us what is good. The book shows us what is evil.
That's right. That's right.
The standards is already set. Everything in here of what is good and what is evil, we read it here in the book. In order to be accepted of God, he gave us a book so he can show us what to do to be accepted of God. What we shouldn't do to be accepted of God. The things that we can do to be pushed away.
That's right.
God will push you away because your ways are perverse and contrary to his ways.
All right.
Our ways is contrary and opposite to God's ways. So why you think God done stayed away? Why? Why God stayed away for so long? Because our ways stink. We want to remain the same way. We want to remain the same way. Like I told my woman, I said, listen here, today is Yom Kippur, meaning the Day of Atonement. You cannot continue to think and remain the same way that you are. You cannot remain the same way. You got to change, not for me. You got to put some changes towards God. You got to put some changes towards God. And when you're changing towards God, towards what you read in the book, then your mentality will change towards certain situations.
That's right.
Towards certain things. You will begin to think different. You will begin to think different. Now, forward thoughts separate from God. What is forward thoughts? Forward thoughts are thoughts that are against God.
That's right.
Against God. Voicing your acceptance, things that you don't accept and God accepted. Things that you accept and God don't accept it.
Right.
And because we do things that God accept and don't accept, it brings contrary and perverse actions against God. Tom Sheep, what verse we at?
21.
Tom Sheep.
He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel. The Lord
Read that again.
He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither hath he seen perverseness in
Time
Israel.
out. You know what it says for perverseness? The word for perverseness is amal. Amal means trouble, mischief. He said he had not beheld injustice in Jacob, neither had he seen mischief and trouble in who?
In
In
Israel.
Israel. So now that should put two and two together of why we didn't always rush to war. If we was able to present peace, we presented peace. That's the way of God. See, certain things a godly man or a seed of Jacob would move in a certain way. You're not going to be troublesome and always ready to start mischief and trouble because you don't fit this category here. You don't fit the standards. It's not fitting.
Okay.
It's not fitting. So now I got to remove certain things away from me to fit these standards. Certain things that I have in me is not right. Certain things that you have in you is not right. And you will never be accepted of God with these things in you. So I have to remove these things to be accepted of God. Okay, read.
And the Lord his God is with him. And the shadow of a king is among them.
He said, and the Lord, his God is with him, and the shadow of a king is among them. A shadow of a king. Look what sprung out. Look at what sprung out in the children of Israel. David, a king that God said, man, this guy got a heart like me. You know what that is for a man to have a heart like unto God? You know what that is for a man to have a heart like God? That's different. That's different, man. Tamshi.
God brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a wild ox. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob.
Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob. There's no enchantment that's going to stand against Yaakov, against these people here. Because at this point in time, Israel is correct. Israel was correct with God. At this point in time, there was no sin found in the seed of Jacob. God did not see no iniquity in Yaakov. See, we got to realize one thing, man. Sin is spiritual. And when we commit sin, when we commit transgressions against God, it affects your spirit.
Sure do.
It affects your spirit. Sin affects your spirit, which put a distance away from you getting towards God. And when we continue to sin and live our lifestyle in iniquity, God put an edge and a boundary to where you cannot pass. You can't get, number one, say in Hosea, he said, I put an edge so that you cannot find your way back. There's certain people that God don't want. Even though the Most High have his hands are stretched forth, waiting for the children of Israel to come back. But certain people God don't want. Because I done went too far into iniquity and you done build your own bridge. You done build your own block. You done build your own way of not passing. So you did it to yourself. We got to learn to follow and do according to what we read.
That's right.
If you don't see it here, why are we preaching these things and saying these things and uplifting and upholding these things? We add on and take away from the laws, commandments, and statutes every day. Read.
Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, what hath God wrought?
What hath God wrought?
Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion and lift up himself as a young lion.
Okay, cut that. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7.
And when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it.
When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into a land that what?
Whither thou goest to possess it. And hath cast out many nations before thee.
Cast out many nations before thee.
The Hittites, Girgashites.
The Hittites. The who?
Girgashites.
Girgashites.
The Amorites.
The Amorites.
And the Canaanites.
The Canaanites.
The Perizzites.
The Perizzites.
The Hivites.
Hivites.
And the Jebusites.
Jebusites.
7 nations greater and mightier than thou.
7 nations that was greater and mightier than thou. The Hittites. You had Uriah the Hittite. We had Ruth, a Moabite. Right? Now, again, the Most High makes exceptions for those that made exceptions for his laws, man.
That's right.
I love those sayings. Look at the Rechabites, Rakab, that these people was accepted of God also, all because they hearkened to the commandments and honored their father, their great way down the line. They honored their father's command. And that was accepted of God.
Yes, sir.
And because God accepted that, he accepted these people. Just because of that.
Yeah.
Tom, see?
And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant.
Make no covenant with them.
Nor show mercy unto
Nor show mercy unto them. He said, don't make no covenant with them. Don't show no mercy to them. He said, I want you to go through these 7 nations and wipe them out. We had a better idea than God. We thought we were smarter than God. We did the complete opposite. Go ahead, read.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
He said, Hikateng means to be related through marriages. That's what Hikateng means. That's the Hebrew word for that. Now, to be related through a marriage is when you go and get married to this woman, and she was not of Israel descent. Now, we don't know who we marrying.
Okay.
We don't know who we marrying.
That's right.
You can't look at a person and call him a Canaanite, call this one, call this one, that one. We did the very same thing that God told us not to do, was mingle the seed. And we mingled and mingled. The first time when we migrated into Africa, took on Hamitic and African culture. Then we left from there, came over to the shores of America, mingled. What pure seed? That's why, look, what pure seed? There is no pure seed of nothing.
No.
Because we've been mingling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. We mingled. So now what we have? The DNA is not pure.
No.
This is why we have so much evil, because we have every nation in us. We like a monkey. We like a mutt. We like a mutt. We got every DNA, every nation, every thinking pattern in us. But we gotta God preserve the book, because we can wean that out. I gotta wean that out.
That's right.
I can't wean it out for you.
That's right.
This is self-work.
That's right.
This is self-determination. You have to be determined not to be like unto these people. You have to be determined to be godly. You have to be determined to be holy, which means we have to take heed to ourselves. Each and every one of us got to take heed to ourselves. But in order to take heed to ourselves, we have to have some type of knowledge about God. We got to have some type of knowledge about God so we know what to be like. That's why reading is very important. The way God wants us to be, we read it here. You're not going to learn how God wants you to be if we stay away from this. This is the book of life. I got this from a heathen, and he said, you know what Bible stand for? He said basic instructions before leaving earth. And I love that. I love that.
Wow.
These are basic instructions before leaving earth. Before you leave this earth and transform into the spiritual realm, you better have accomplished these laws. You better have accomplished these commandments, because it ain't nothing nice. It's not nothing nice. It's nothing nice. Tamshi.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter thou shalt take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son.
He said, don't take your sons and give them to your daughter, to their daughters,
Uh-huh.
and don't take your daughters and give them to their sons. That has an effect on the children.
Uh-huh.
Look, man, we don't know who we marrying now, but for crying out loud, I ain't gotta have a child with Betsy.
Okay.
I ain't gotta have a child with Betsy and Lucille and Marilyn. I gotta go amongst my own that have chosen of their own free will to serve this God and have children with this woman. At least when she's out of my sight, at least I know my child won't be doing certain things and eating in a manner that is not accepted of God.
Right.
But yet, we do things and expect a different effect,
Yeah.
a different outlook.
Yeah.
What do you expect? What do you think was going to happen?
Right.
You done chose to lie down with a dog that don't acknowledge God,
That's a fact.
don't have no morals, don't acknowledge nothing. But you
That's
have a
right.
child and children with these people.
That's a fact.
Tom, see?
But they will turn away thy son from following
They will
me,
turn away thy son from following me.
that they may.
You know how?
They try.
You know how?
They try.
You know how? Because you will begin, you think it won't happen, but you will begin to accept certain things.
Fact.
And then when you're with her, just to please her, to please her, you accept certain things. And sometimes, guess what? I have to catch myself. In some point in the area, I'm saying, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So what am I accepting here? Did I accept that? Why am I accepting this from her? Hey, come on.
That's
Let's
right.
lay it all down, man. Listen here, man. Listen
That's
here.
right.
And then you know what's the greatest thing that they say? You didn't tell me this in the beginning, where Rome wasn't built in 1 year on a day.
Yeah.
So you ain't gonna learn and get everything one time,
That's
sister.
right. That's right.
Listen, you ain't gonna get everything one time. I'm gonna feed you little by little.
That's
Perfect
right.
this.
Yes.
All right, I see you graduate. Here, let me give you some more. Hey, where you get this from? Hey. There is 613 laws, commandments, and statutes.
That's right.
365 negative and 248 positive. You think you know everything? No. There's a go ahead, read.
For they will turn away thy son
They
from
will
following
turn
me.
away thy son from following me.
That's right.
Yes, little by little, you see yourself leaning towards things
Absolutely.
that is not right by God
Huh.
to soothe and please this woman.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's how she turned you. Oh, she didn't turn me. Yeah, she turned you. Because you are accepting things that you would not have accepted if you wasn't with her.
Okay.
And that's why in the law he said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and might.
That's
And when you
right.
love God with all your heart, soul, and might, guess what? Nothing comes past this.
That's right.
Nothing comes above this.
Fact.
Nothing comes before the Creator.
Mhm.
Women don't get that. My woman don't
No.
get that.
No.
With all my heart, soul, and might,
No.
God get that. God is the
That's
only one
right.
that get that.
That's
My
right.
children don't get that.
That's
Because there's
right.
gonna come a time when I may have to separate from you.
That's
Why? Because you are being defiant with God.
That's right.
Not with me. You're being defiant with God. So now I gotta bounce. I can't force you. Because God said don't force her. God that said don't force nobody. He gave every man a choice. Realize God gave the command. He said you choose life and death. You choose. God gave the command to Adam and Eve. He said do not eat of every tree that is in the midst of the garden.
That's right.
In the day that you eat from it, he said thou shalt surely die. And he left the tree in the midst of the garden and left them alone. Now the adversary comes and beguiles this woman. The woman told the adversary, the serpent, he said, God did say He said, of every tree of the garden of Eden, but take it. Now, the adversary reversed the question and used the question against her. So he said, listen, God did say that of every tree of the garden, we may freely eat. But the tree that is in the midst of the garden, God said, you should not eat from it, neither shall ye touch it. Most Israelites said God didn't say that. She said it. Well, it's coming from Eve. You're calling Eve a liar? Eve. Listen, two things. We got to realize two things. Watch the things that we consume.
Yeah.
And watch the things that we touch.
Yeah.
The things that God has abominated and has become abomination and detestable in the eyes of God. Don't eat it and don't touch it.
I go and eat it freely with no type
because
of
I don't watch a man's lifestyle
change
and his elevation with God
change
because of the changes that he took with God.
Yeah.
Look, man. And I watch, and you know why I know it counts with God? Because I done seen his elevation pick up.
Yeah, it does.
His elevation picked up. He prayed constantly.
Yeah, it does.
The man said, man, I'm only eating what I read here in the book.
Right.
I don't eat pasta.
Right.
I don't eat the king's meat.
Right.
The king's meat, pot bottom, is a delicacy.
Right.
It's a delicacy. And when you look up the word for pot bottom, it says hors d'oeuvre. They laugh at me when the hors d'oeuvre. Hors d'oeuvres. It means ready and prepared food. Ready and prepared food. And Daniel said, these are things that I stay away from.
Right.
So it does hold in high regards.
Right.
The man only ate berries, bread, vegetables, nuts, beans, water. That's it. That's it.
Vegan Chipotle.
That's it. And I don't know about nobody else, but I've envisioned how he elevated with God.
Facts.
How he elevated. So it does have an effect on your
Yes, sir.
spirit.
Yeah,
It does. And God do acknowledge these things.
Right.
Go ahead, read.
When you turn away the son from following,
You're going to turn away your son from following me and what?
so that they may serve other gods.
So that they may serve other gods.
Uh-oh.
The first chance I get, I'm not going to be in fantasy world.
Uh-oh.
No, I got to be in reality.
That's right.
Once my daughter get of a certain age and a Hebrew man wants her, I'm going to marry her off.
That's right.
Into this Hebrew man that's going to keep her and hold her in this. Or before a heathen get her, some slickster out there get her. Because we don't have Sarahs. Look at Tamar. Tamar got raped by Amnon. After she got raped by Amnon, she wasn't looking for no more Zackings.
That's right.
She didn't look for no more Zacking rods. She lived in the house of her brother, and she stayed to herself.
That's right.
Look at the sister, Judah, Tamar. He said was evil in the eyes of God. God killed him. Onan went to go into his brother's wife to raise up seed for his brother, but he knew that the seed should not be his, so he pulled out and spilled the seed on the ground. God killed them for that quick. Why? Because he didn't want to raise up seed for his brother, and he knew it would not be his. So what God killed him for? A mentality. He killed him because of the way he thought. He killed him because of the way he think. Look how close these people was. Yeah. We think I would think him patting us off. And he leave us to continue in our fault and increase in iniquity so he could slay us. See, the righteous and the ones that is considered of God, he don't allow you to keep pushing forward and sinning in life without stopping you.
Right.
Without stopping you, not to stop.
It's gonna be gruesome.
It's gonna be gruesome.
It's gonna be gruesome.
It's gonna be gruesome, so that you can acknowledge your offense and fear. Now these women wasn't like these women today.
Not at all.
They wasn't so gullible for sex.
So quick.
They was able, and the men wasn't so gullible for sex.
So quick.
They were able to stay to themselves, and that's it.
That's a fact.
Tom, see?
That they may serve other gods.
That they may serve other gods.
So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you.
So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you.
And destroy thee suddenly.
Destroy you quickly.
But thus shall ye deal with them.
Thus shall you deal with them.
Ye shall destroy their altars.
Destroy their altars.
Break down their images.
And
cut down their groves. And burn their graven images with fire. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special.
Okay, go back to that verse.
But thus shall ye deal with them.
But thus shall ye deal with them.
Ye shall destroy their altars.
Ye shall destroy their altars.
And break down their images.
Break down their images. Now, when you look up the word for images, when you're studying the law, when you're studying the histories, Psalms, Proverbs, you need a Hebrew dictionary. You need an English dictionary. So that you can get to the bottom and to the essence of what it really is. So when it says images, it says matzeba. Do we know what a matzeba is? A matzeba is a monument, a statue, or a tombstone. A statue. Not because Mikhail had a statue, used it, put it in the bed, put hair upon it, makes it right.
Oh, Mikhail had one.
That don't mean that. Not because people say, you can have it as long as you're not praying to it.
No.
These are all matzebas, statues. Now, we're going to dig into the word of monument. Now, what is a monument? A monument is a written legal document or record. Now, and this is why I don't have obituaries in my house. An obituary from sunset to sunset. He was a boom, was a whole article about this person. These things brings an abomination in your house, brings an evil spirit. These are abominable. These things that we bring into our house will bring evil spirit and keep you from getting towards God.
Yes, sir.
It will put a wedge between you and God.
Yes, sir.
So we have to learn the things that is detestable of God and stay away from it.
Yes, sir.
You know how many guys have obituaries in their house?
Yes, sir.
In their wallets?
Yes, sir.
And they say you can have it as long as you're not praying to it.
Yes, sir.
Look, they even have the most infamous 6-point star. Nowhere in the book that I read where it said David had a 6-point star. Now that 6-point star is a demonic symbol.
That's facts.
Two triangles uniting on top of each other. It's a demonic symbol. The 5-point stars are demonic symbols. Certain emblems and symbols are demonic symbols, and we should not be allowing these things to come into the house.
Yeah.
Tom, see?
And cut down their groves. And burn.
Cut down their groves. Asherah. An Asherah is a grove. An Asherah also is a pole. They used to have a wooden pole, and they used to engrave the idol inside the wood. What'd that take you back to? The stripping pole. That stripping pole is a symbolic symbol of the grove, of the Asherah. Tamshi.
And burn their graven images.
And burn their graven images. Facile. Facile is an image on idol. He said, burn their images. Burn their idols. Wait a minute. Don't that sound like two different things?
Uh-oh.
Because when I told an Israelite about a person or a God or people that claim to be of the heritage of Jacob, I said we shouldn't have images. So the dude got all emotional and said, so you think we can have an image of my son? He's dead. That don't mean that. Look, God already said, he said, burn their images. Facile is an image on idol. It doesn't have to be worshipped. Just have it. An image on idol is two different things. So these are the things that I stay away from. I don't allow images in my house. It ain't gonna kill me if I don't have it.
Right.
My father always said this here, and it stuck with me. He said, what he said? He said, if you do without. He said, when in doubt, do it out. We got to use the book for a guide. Read it, study it, and do what it says. Because remember now, we don't have no prophets and we don't have no priests here to inquire of God for us to find out the true meaning of what it is. So we got to study the words and do exactly what it says. Don't lean off to my own ways. Don't lean off to my own stubborn opinions and stubborn thoughts to suit me. Because that's what people do now. They add on to the book to suit their own ideas, their own ways. Tamshi.
For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God.
For thou art a holy people to the Lord thy God. And do you know that's the problem? You know why I said that's the problem? Because God is telling us that we are a holy people to the Lord thy God, but we're not looking at ourselves as a holy people to God.
That's it.
We're not looking to ourselves as being holy. Because in order for this to bring about a holy reaction, we have to look at ourselves as being such. You got a woman, you look at the woman, you tell the woman, sister, you are a daughter of Zion. You're trying to embed this thought in her head. But she ain't looking at herself as a daughter of Zion. She said, well, I want to be a prostitute. He said, no, don't sell yourself. Don't do this. Don't do that. Take off those pants. Put on the dress. Have some honor and respect for yourself. But in order for her to have honor and respect for herself, you tell her she got to have that in her own self. She got to realize that. And that's what we need to realize. We have to learn to realize that we are holy. And now, by you realizing that you're holy is going to bring about holy things, holy actions. And by you realizing that, you're going to lean towards the book more by reading and studying so you can acquire the ways of God. Tamshi.
The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special
The
people.
Lord thy God has did what?
Has chosen thee.
Has chosen thee.
To be a special people.
Why did God choose us? Why? Why do you think God chose us? It all goes back because of Abraham. And this is a God that, look, if I'm good with your father, I got to be good with your seed. Right. If I'm good with your father, I must be good with your seed. Those are the ways of God. You find certain situations with men today, they're good with you and dislike your seed. How in the world are you going to be good with me, but then hate my son? That's not the ways of God. And hate the father. Or you go with me and hate my father. Or you go with me and hate my brother. No, these things cannot be if you're pursuing righteousness and holiness with God. Tamshi, he chose Abraham, man.
Yeah.
He chose Abraham because he was faithful. He chose Abraham because he was faithful. And Abraham, God didn't have to show himself like that with Abraham. Abraham has something that we don't have, and that's blind allegiance.
Yeah.
Know what blind allegiance is? God don't have to do nothing miraculous to prove to you that he's God. All I gotta do is read this book, and you gotta make yourself believe that this really happened. You gotta make yourself believe that this really happened. This really took place. Yes, it did happen.
That's right.
You know what made me believe these things that it happened? Because I see the science channels has proved it. Science channels and archaeologists has proved that these things happen. So all I gotta do is increase my belief in God.
That's right.
Not by sinning. Your belief is gonna get, listen, you will weaken your belief by sinning. My belief in God will get weaker and weaker by sinning and breaking God's law. But you increase your belief in God by ceasing from sinning, by staying away from iniquity. Tamshi.
The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people.
The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people.
Unto himself.
Unto himself.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people. For he was the fewest of all people. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he has sworn unto your fathers. Verse 8. Which he has sworn unto your fathers. As the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God.
He is God.
The faithful God.
The faithful God.
Which keepeth covenant.
And mercy.
With them that love him. And keep his commandments.
So it goes hand in hand. If you love God, you will fulfill his commandments. You can't say you love God, but we sin.
That's right.
But you can say that you hate him. Yeah, we all hate God. You know why? Because we sin presumptuously. And when we sin presumptuously, God look at you and say, man, you despise me. He told that to David. He said, man, you despise my commandment, David. Then later on, God sent Nathan to David and told him, he said, your iniquity has been erased. He erased the iniquity that David did. But he still paid for it. He still paid for it. Look, you love God, you'll keep his laws. If you love your parents, you will keep their laws. You will honor them. If you love your husband, you will do what he says. Love, you show your love by actions, not by speaking. I love you, Shama. But every time I tell you to do something, it's a problem. Every time I tell you not to do it, it's a problem. Every time I tell you to do this, it's a problem. Then you don't love me.
That's right.
Love means to hearken. Time sheet.
Which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations.
To 1,000 generations, read.
And repay them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hated him. He will repay him to his face.
He says, and repay them that hate him to their face, to destroy them.
That's right.
To destroy them. You know what that is? If God destroys you, You done all. There is no acharit.
That's right.
There is no hereafter. If God destroys
You
you.
be destroyed. You're still walking around right now.
Now, that's right. That's right. You got the mark of
Living
death
your
on
life.
you. The mark of death on
That's
you.
right.
And
Mhm.
that's why you can't take towards the things that is lawful and right by God.
Facts.
Because most of us have the mark of death.
Facts.
They don't believe.
Most of us had the mark of death.
Facts.
So we're not going to elevate with the Creator.
That's right.
Facts.
We ain't going to elevate with God.
Facts.
Because we already sanctioned and had that mark on us.
Mhm.
Like Cain. But Cain God put a mark on Cain for a little mercy.
Mhm.
To preserve him a little longer.
Mhm.
Time see?
Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes.
Thou
and
shalt
the
therefore
judgments,
keep the commandments.
and the statutes
And the statutes.
and the judgments
And the
which
judgments.
I command thee this day to do them.
To do them. Read.
Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments and keep them and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers.
He said, if you do my laws, if you keep my commandments, now I can keep my covenant that I made with your fathers. Now I can keep my covenant that I made with your fathers, and it trickled on down to the nation. Tom, see?
And he will love thee,
He will
bless
love
thee,
you. And bless you.
and
Read.
multiply thee. And he will also bless the fruit of thy
He will
womb.
also bless the fruit of thy womb. We didn't have children with Down syndrome.
Right.
True.
We didn't have children with Down syndrome.
Right.
We didn't have children that were slow.
Mhm.
We didn't have that.
Or deformity.
Or deformed.
Yeah.
Or monsters.
Yeah.
2 heads.
Mhm.
Tom, see?
And the fruit of thy land, thy corn, thy wine, and thine oil, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep, in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Thou shalt be blessed above all people.
We're going to be blessed above all nations.
There shall not be male or female barren among you, or cattle. And the Lord will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which thou knowest, upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. And thou shalt consume all the people which the Lord thy God shall deliver thee. Thine eyes shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto thee. If thou shalt say,
thou shalt consume all the people which the Lord thy God shall deliver thee. Thine eyes shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto thee. You're gonna trap yourself. You're gonna entrap yourself by serving these nations' deities. Serving these nations' gods. Read.
If thou shalt say in thine heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? Thou shalt not be afraid of them, but shalt well remember that the Lord thy God did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt.
Now we gotta use that for strength.
Right.
We can't forget the glory of God. We can't forget the things that God did. We always gotta remind ourselves of the great and mighty acts that God did.
That's right.
Because if you don't remind yourselves of his works, then that fire is gonna dwindle out.
That's right.
You ever saw and envisioned the work of God, and it gives you like a boost to push towards righteousness? You have to keep that fire lit within yourself. It's a fire that's in you that has been lit because you done seen the work of God.
Right.
We have to keep that fire lit. We got to keep feeding that fire. We got to continue to talk about God's glorious acts so that we can continue to push towards the things that is lawful and right by God. We cannot allow that fire to die out because it will be the end of us pushing. You ain't going to push. Tom, see?
The great temptations which thine eyes saw, and the signs, and
the great temptation that your eyes saw, The signs,
the
read.
wonders,
Wonders.
the mighty hand, and the stretched out arm, whereby the Lord thy God brought thee out. So shall the Lord thy God do unto all the people of whom thou art afraid. Moreover, the Lord thy God will send a hornet among them, until they that are left and hide themselves from thee be destroyed. Thou shalt not be affrighted at them, for the Lord thy God is among you, a mighty God and terrible.
He said, don't be afraid. He said, God is among us, man. God is with us. And if we really believe in God and the things that he did, then there's no way that we should be afraid of these other nations.
Right.
Because we already envisioned and saw what he did to Egypt. And that was light work. That was light work. It was nothing hard for God to do.
That's right.
Tom, see?
And the Lord thy God will put
Where
out
else you at?
those, verse 22. And the Lord thy God will put out those nations before thee by little and little. Thou mayest not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee. But the Lord thy God shall deliver them unto thee, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction, until thou be destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into thine hand, and thou shalt destroy their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before thee, until thou have destroyed them. The graven images of their gods.
The graven images. The graven images of their gods. Esileh, Elohim.
Shall thou destroy.
Shall you burn.
Thou shalt not desire the silver.
Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold.
That is on.
Okay now. Okay now. This is why we cannot buy jewelry out of pawn shops. Because the chain that you're buying was used to hold up a cross. The chain that you're buying had a JC head on it. So the JC head is an abomination, and that chain is an abomination. So now,
that's right.
If the chain that's why it's good to talk about these laws every day, because certain things you forget. And when you talk about it, it reiterates it and it substantiates, and you remind yourselves. Okay, now he said, the silver or gold that is on them, he said, nor take it to thee, lest thou be snared thereby, for it is an abomination unto the Lord. Anything that is an abomination before God should not be allowed in your house. So now, we have to be circumspect with who we let in our house with jewelry.
That's right.
Because he may not have a jade piece on the jewelry, on the chain, but the chain was used to hold up a cross. So the chain is an abomination. So the chain has to stay outside. You can't listen, brother, where you get that chain from? Is it new? Did you get it from somebody? You have to be scrutinized. Don't come in my house with your jewelry. Leave your jewelry outside. Because the chain is an abomination, just like the cross. None of that stuff could come into the house. Because we have to train ourselves to hate the things that God hates. Love the things that God loves. He said, neither shalt
thou bring an abomination into thine house.
Into your house.
Lest thou be a cursed thing
like it. Lest thou be a cursed thing like it. God is going to look at you as cursed. Just like that chain. Just like the chain. The chain is cursed, you won't be cursed.
But thou shalt utterly detest
it.
And thou shalt utterly abhor it. For it is a cursed thing.
It is a cursed thing. Hold that right there. And let's go to Proverbs 12. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 12. But before we go to Proverbs 12, let's go to Jeremiah 3. Now go to Proverbs 12. Go to Proverbs 12. Yeah. And then after Proverbs 12, go to Jeremiah 3. Got it?
Whoso loveth instruction, loveth knowledge.
Who so love it? Instructions, love it knowledge.
That's right.
Love it knowledge.
Tell you don't-
Which means what? If you don't, listen,
Mhm.
we got to learn some things, man. In order to excel with God, in order to excel in these laws, we gotta be instructed.
Right.
We need a guide.
Mhm.
You need a guide to excel with God, right? What is in word for instructions is musad. It means directions, order, discipline, correction, chastening. We need those things to get it right with God.
That's
And if
right.
you despise direction and discipline and correction,
Don't do it.
then that's the only way towards God, towards
Okay.
righteousness. Tamshi,
But he that hated reproof is brutish.
he that hated reproof is what?
Brutish.
Is brutish.
Yeah.
You know what brutish is? Brutish, the word in Hebrew for brutish is ba'al.
Mhm.
And the word ba'al means bore. B-O-O-R. We know what bore is? Bore means insensitive. Means insensitive, to be insensitive. Insensitive means a person with no emotions.
Mhm.
A person with no emotions. You cannot serve God with no emotions.
Mhm.
In order to serve God, you gotta love him. With all your heart, soul, and might. That's an emotion. In order to serve God, I have to consider my brother. I gotta consider my neighbor. I gotta love my neighbor like I love myself. So if I don't have no emotions, I'm not gonna love you like I love myself. I'm not gonna consider you, which means I'm gonna be doing things to hurt you.
That's right.
I'm gonna do things to hurt you,
Mhm.
not caring about how you feel about it. Because God gave us these laws concerning one another, gave us these laws of how to deal with each other.